go ahead and now we can start because it says recording in progress. Thank you, Andrea. Appreciate everyone that's here with us in person. Thanks for braving the heat or enjoying it, whichever one works for you. I braved it. I enjoy the air conditioning. I'll stay in here as long as I can. But those of you who enjoy it, thanks. That's why God made it. Thanks for everyone that's joining us online because you didn't want to leave your offices and come out into the heat. So thank you. Let's go around if we can and just do introductions. I'm Mark Shepard, Mayor Clearfield, and chairing the committee. We'll go this way.
Wayne Benyon, Wasatch Front staff.
Beth Holbrook, Utah Transit Authority trustee, and I will be that for another 4 years.
I was going to say, just want to congratulate Beth. She was reappointed yesterday by the Senate.
Kendall Harris, the mayor of Bountiful.
Jerry Bingham, mayor of Pepper City.
Dan Dugas, Salt Lake City Council.
Rosie Hernandez, I'm part of the admin team at WFRC.
Susie Swim, I'm in the analytics group at WFRC.
I'm Robert Stewart. I am the UDOT Region 2 Director.
Carlton Christensen, also a member of the Board of Trustees for the Utah Transit Authority.
Mike Wickers, Cottonwood Heights Mayor.
Tiffany Pocock, UDOT Program Development.
Ted Knowlton, WFRC Deputy Director.
Andrea Pearson, admin team at WFRC.
Andrew Gruber, Executive Director, WFRC.
John A. Nardone, Communications Manager, WFRC.
Marsha White, Economic Development, WFRC.
Cindy Song, intern of WFRC.
Chandler Butler, UTA Government Relations.
Jaron Robertson, UTA.
Ryan Taylor, UTA.
Mike Goldman, UTA.
Kip Billings, Wasatch Front staff.
Ben Withrich, Wasatch Front staff.
Certainly. I'll just call a couple of names and have you introduce yourselves. Commissioner Harvey and then Commissioner Van Tassel.
Thank you, Jim Harvey, Weber County.
Kevin's here.
Thanks. Okay. And then we have Mayor Jepson, Mayor Hall.
Kevin Jepson, Mayor, Perry City.
Hi, Mayor Hall, Bluffdale.
And Commissioner Blocker and Paul Egbert.
Commissioner Blocker, Morgan County.
Paul Egbert, UDOT Region 1 Program Manager.
Thank you. And then we also have some other attendees joining us.
You're up to introduce yourself.
Joe Smoke, Immigration.
Thank you, Mayor.
All right. Well, thank you, everybody. We have minutes from our April 24th meeting. Has everyone had a chance to review those as they were sent out? If there's no changes, I'd entertain a motion to approve them.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay, minutes stand. Item number 2 is our chair's report, and Andrew had just kind of asked me to talk about what's been my last trips to DC.
Well, just that I'll set you up just a little bit.
Go ahead.
Mayor, if I may, because I did suggest that this would be a great thing for you to brief people on. Housing is a huge issue, of course, housing availability and affordability in Utah. It's not directly what this committee focuses on, but housing and transportation relate to each other very closely. You all know this. Mayor Shepard is on the board of the National League of Cities and is co-leading an effort by the National League of Cities to work on national housing policy. And we thought that it would be great having him here to just share a brief update on the work that is happening in that space that he's doing, representing Utah at the national level.
Well, thanks, Andrew. Yeah, actually 2 different groups with the National League of Cities, the America's Housing Comeback, which is kind of the, if you've seen the the playbook, Housing Supply Accelerator that was the National League of Cities worked on for a few years. That was the result of that, was the playbook for cities to give them ideas on what they can do for housing. The next step of that came, is America's Housing Comeback, and is a significantly larger group of people. The one was just, really, it was the American Planners Association and the cities, and then joined in a little bit from some other cohorts, just about everybody that had the hand in housing. This extends, America's Housing Comeback extends to the realtors, the home builders, the bankers, everybody with a major seat at the table to really try to address this on a national level. I was back in DC a couple of weeks ago with mayors and CEOs for U.S. housing investment, which I co-chair with the mayor of Long Beach, Rex Richardson. And so we had the great opportunity with a very small group to go really, for the most part, meet with the senators and finance and budget leadership to talk housing. And with that, they were, of course, also focused on transportation and trying to get their portion of the Senate finance package together in the reconciliation. And it was great because it was the first time, it was hands down the most productive trip I have ever made to DC, which that was my 5th trip so far this year, and I have one more coming up in August. So to say that that was productive, or the most productive, was amazing. To actually have senators asking us questions and asking how we're addressing it in Utah and how things that we're doing in Utah can translate to the rest of the country. What can they change in the legislation to make things happen? So we talked a lot about LIHTC. We talked a lot about opportunity zones, which affect most of our cities. And to have them asking us questions was amazing. They weren't just sending in a staffer to take notes. Senator Scott, who wrote the original legislation for opportunity zones, came in to meet with us and sat down and just grilled us for a while. And so very productive meetings. There is a lot going on. And if you've seen the Senate package yesterday, I testified last week via Zoom to the Senate Finance Committee about Medicaid. Not my area of expertise. It became my area of expertise overnight when the National League of Cities said, hey, we have a desperate need for someone to testify tomorrow. And NACO, the National Association of Counties, has got a rep. We need somebody to speak on behalf of cities. Would you jump onto a Zoom call and do that? Thanks to my friends in Salt Lake on the city council, we had some great conversations and were able to talk Medicaid and the impacts on Utah. And then a couple of my cities up north chimed in as well as to what those effects and the changes that are coming would do to their cities. So it's cool. It's kind of fun to have Utah being looked at on a national level and saying what's going on and what's working here and how do those things impact us. So appreciate that. Thanks for asking, Andrew. It was a public comment period. I didn't hear anybody from the public, and I don't see anybody online. So if there's no public comment, we will move on to item number 4, which is our transportation improvement program. We've got a few items today in regards to the TIP. The first 2 are regarding amendments to the 2025-2030 TIP. And then the last one is Transcom's annual opportunity to release the new TIP. And so Ben has got a lot to cover with us today. So I'm going to go ahead and turn the time over to Master Withrich.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So as the chair teed us up there for the Transportation Improvement Program, this could be a real short presentation. Oh, man. With the speed of accuracy here, just so we spelled it right. As many of you, it may be new to some, hopefully none of this body here, but the TIP, or the Transportation Improvement Program, is a pretty significant document. And as the chair indicated, that the Transportation Improvement Program today, we will have 3 significant actions. Well, there'll be 2 actions, and there's one as a reference there. But to go through the significance or the importance of the TIP, we'd like to review just a little with us. So as you know, or remember there, that the Transportation Improvement Program is a 6-year program of highway transit and active transportation projects. The first 4 years, we consider those years funded years. The out 2 years, we refer to those years as concept development. On our programs, we use those for programming years as well, but they are considered concept development in the TIP and the statewide Transportation Improvement Program. The TIP is for both our urban areas, Salt Lake urban area and the Ogden-Layton urban area. So we essentially go from the Utah County line all the way up through Brigham City. It's funded with federal, state, and local programs, and it's for all the cities, counties, UDOT, and UTA. The Transportation Improvement Program will implement the long-range plans for the highway transit and active transportation projects, helps us meet the short-range needs along the Wasatch Front, and provides for the maintenance of our existing system. Transportation Improvement Program includes new construction projects, rehab and maintenance projects, safety and intelligent transportation systems, transit operating and maintenance, and pedestrian and bicycle type projects. So a large gamut of projects are covered in the Transportation Improvement Program. It represents hundreds of millions of dollars, thousands of jobs, the economic growth and development along the Wasatch Front, mobility and access, the preservation of life, and of course, to promote the quality of life we're accustomed to. By law, the Transportation Improvement Program is financially constrained, conforms to air quality, and is reviewed by the public and approved by the Regional Council. So, as the chair indicated, the first item there is a board modification that was presented to the Regional Council. The Regional Council, oh, sorry, yes.
No, I just had one question. You program out 4 years. Do you actually get the funding for all 4 years, or are you subject to that annual appropriation process? And so then what happens to years 3 through 4?
So yes, on both, depending on the program, there is allocations for the 4 years. But the transportation bill, as it will end next year, so we are all programming on assumptions, maybe the wrong term to use, but assumptions that those programs will continue at a level that we have programmed. Now, in all of the programs too, we program at a conservative level. There's always the anticipation that there will be more funds, but we tend to stay at a conservative level when we're programming the funds. And then if there is more, we bring the projects forward faster.
Carlton, I'll just, thank you, Ben. I'll just also note the TIP includes projects that are funded from all sources. So federal, state, local, et cetera. And to your point on the federal funds, the availability, the funds are authorized, but they are subject to annual appropriation. That's the same with the state funds. The programs are established, but then there's an annual appropriations process. So, you know, there's a lot of certainty, but there are required annual legislative actions at the federal and state level to actually make the funds available.
Thank you. Thanks, Andrew. So as the board modification that was presented to the Regional Council back on their meeting on the 22nd, there's a copy of that table in your meeting materials. The council reviewed those 3 projects. They approved those projects, and also a copy of the signed resolution is included in your meeting materials. Mr. Chair, am I to go forward? Thank you. Thank you. So 4B then is an action item that Transcom has today. This is the board modification number 7 that's before you. Since the TIP was approved, the 2025-2030 TIP was approved last August. In your meeting materials, you'll also have, there's 4 tables, and those projects on those tables we'll review in a fairly timely, quickly manner. And some of them, I'll read some of my notes here just to keep it less dialogue as we go through here. to move us along. So the very first project that we have to look at is a project in Salt Lake City. This is a UTA request. This is the Intermodal Center at the University of Utah. Now, back when this project was first come through this body, statistic-wise, we had about 18.4% of all the trips that were going up to the campus were on transit. And nearly 50% of the students and faculty and staff used UTA and other alternative transportation for their primary access to the campus. So there was a desire to have an intermodal center, something where everything could come together. And initially, between the University of Utah and UTA, they identified this location along South Campus Drive. This body recommended, and it was approved by the regional council, the $2.5 million to move forward with an intermodal center in this location. Well, that was several years ago. A lot of things have changed up at campus, and over the time, the University of Utah with UTA has looked at this area saying, where can we have the best location for an intermodal center that'll allow as much interaction as we can get? So as they studied that, they looked at this current location here on South Campus. And in considering the other modes of transportation that were up and coming, there's the Orange Tech Link, or the Orange Line, and also the Davis Salt Lake Commuter, which will both, or connector, which will both be coming into the university in Utah or the research park. So it was identified in this location here that this would be the best location to move. So the board request, or the request before you, is to relocate where the intermodal center is from South Campus Drive over to Research Park. Now, I might add that as that route comes up through South Campus and then comes up and over to this new location here, it'll still, all of those that would be using South Campus Drive will still be serviced with this same line. So there's no change in the funding, but this proposed intermodal center will include the Davis Salt Lake Connector, the Orange Line, the University of Utah shuttles, the bike and ped, and possibly on-demand services. The funding remains the same. Currently, this project is funded with CMAQ funds and other UTA local funds. The next request that we have before you is a project in West Jordan. Now, this project, when it was originally programmed, was programmed to design a new trail in and near the UTA tracks line there at Gardner Village. Project would design a bike and ped east-west facility through the heart of the city. When this body reviewed this project, they thought and felt that this was a good design planning study to do, and so they recommended, and $120,000 was programmed for the project. Well, since that time, there was an announcement in the funding and the programming of the Bingham Creek Trail. Now, this trail, $14 million trail, 6+ miles in length, and would connect the Jordan River Parkway Trail to the Bingham Creek Regional Park in Daybreak and the Mountain View Corridor Trail, and it would connect to multiple track stations, parks, and neighborhoods. And essentially, the tracked rail trail designed with West Jordan was a duplication. So West Jordan is requesting that we remove this project from the tip and that those funds, the $120,000, be returned back to the program for future project programming. So the second board mod before you is to request that this project be withdrawn from the program. The next project is a project in Davis and Salt Lake. This is on I-15. This is the reconstruction and widening of I-15. This goes from Salt Lake City to Farmington. And as many of you know, UDOT's conducted a holistic, transparent, and a technically sound environmental impact statement study to identify and understand and evaluate mobility issues along the corridor, such as aging infrastructure, interchange functionality, capacity needs, safety concerns, additional multimodal options, and the east-west connectivity. UDOT now has has more of an insight on the budget needed for the design, the right-of-way, and the construction of the project. And this project and the project funding was part of the state program public review and comment period during the month of May. So the request for this project is for additional funding so that this project can move forward. The request is for an additional $1.2 billion on this project, bringing this project total cost to 2.9 plus billion. And this funding is available through the state transportation investment funds. So that's the third board modification before you. The next project that we have for us takes us to the second table. This second table begins with a project in Salt Lake City. This is a request from UTA. This is on the Orange Line. This project is to conduct an environmental study of the Orange Line or Tech Link tracks, which would provide service between the Salt Lake City International Airport, the University of Utah, and the new Service to Research Park. When this project's constructed and after the completion of the study or the environmental document, the Tech Link Tracks project would support long-range transportation demand and improve tracks operation reliability and capacity. So the fourth request is to add this new project to the program for $6 million for a total $6 million plus, or $6 million even. The next project before us is a project, also a request from UTA. This is in Salt Lake City. This is on the S line. The S line, which launched back in 2013, currently runs between the Central Point Station at 221 West, 2100 South in South Salt Lake to Fairmont Station, which is located at 1040 East and 2200 South in Salt Lake. The project will extend the S line from its current location there where it ends at Fairmont Station at 1040 East, along the north side of the Simpson Avenue there through the heart of the Sugar House Business District and across Highland Drive into the parking facility within the redevelopment area there on the east side of Highland Drive. The project purpose or the benefits of this project, it supports the economic development, serves a growing population of Sugar House, enhances reliable transportation to Sugar House Business District, provides alternative to vehicle traffic, as well as improves the connection to the Sugar House area. The request for this project is for additional funds, $9 million of the state transportation investment program or the state TTIF and $6.2 million from UTA funds, giving us a total project cost of $43+ million. The next request before us is a request in Salt Lake City. This is a request from Salt Lake City. When the new TIF program accepted funding applications in the past years, Salt Lake City applied for several projects in keeping with the regional transportation plan, the city master plans, the city goals, and the support for transit. These three projects have since experienced scope or timing changes such that it now is preferable to withdraw these projects and resubmit for nomination in the future with a revised and refined scope. So the first project there to be removed is on 200 South at 200 East. This is for an intermodal center. The state or the TTIF funds that were programmed was $1.5 million with a local match of $1 million. The second project that is being requested to remove is a project on 2100 South and State Street. This is for a pedestrian crossing with a state TTIF funds of $266,000 plus with $170,000 plus a local match. And the third project is a project along North Temple. This is for active transportation improvements with an estimated amount of $3.3+ million of state TTIP funds and $2.2+ million of local funds. So the request is to remove these projects from the program for later programming. That'll enable new projects to move forward in the state TTIF program. That brings us to the third table there that has 4 projects on it. The first project we'll look at is a project in Davis County. This project is on SR 177 or the West Davis Highway. This request for additional funding will enable this project to remove through the closeout due to significant change orders that occurred because of inflation, labor, materials, and supply escalation during COVID-19. General construction costs, reduced revenues anticipated from sales of excess right-of-way and other project-related expenses. Fantastic facility. If any of you haven't had the chance yet to use this. The request is for an additional $65 million, given this total project cost of $910+ million. These funds will enable this project to close out. The next project that we have before us is a project in Salt Lake. This is a request from UDOT. This is on the Mountain View corridor. This is for new construction. This goes between Old Bingham Highway to Porter Rockwell Boulevard, about 9 miles plus. The Mountain View corridor is undergoing a significant expansion project between Porter Rockwell Boulevard and Old Bingham Highway. This section will be transformed into a freeway with grades separated at major intersections, slip ramps for improved freeway access, and multiple new bridges and interchanges, and 2 additional traffic lanes in each direction. Some of these improvements were also initially going to happen in prior projects, but now will be happening in this project. So this request is for additional funding for this project, $510 million, giving this project a total cost of a little more than $1 billion. The next project before us is also a request from UDOT. This is also on the Mountain View corridor. This is for 2 new interchanges, one at 7800 South and one at 90th South. This request is for a new project to give a grade separation there, first with the grade separated and then with mainline traffic, giving us an interchange there at 78, as well as a grade separated facility and then constructing mainline. So the request for this is for a new project for $260 million with the total project estimated cost of $260 million. The next, perfect timing. Thank you, Mayor. But wonderful. We'll keep moving with the next project then before us is also a request from UDOT, and this is also on the Mountain View corridor, and this is for a new interchange at 3500 South. Unlike the other 2 interchanges, this one could add a little difficulty there because of the new pedestrian bridge and everything that's been constructed there on 3500 South. But nonetheless, this project is going to give us a grade separation there from 3500 South and mainline of Mountain View corridor. The request is for this to be added to the tip and the stip as a new project with $120 million for a total project estimated cost of $120 million. That brings us to the last table of this board modification, and it only has 2 on it. The first request there is a project in Salt Lake City. Whoops, that came a little quick, but this is on US 89 or 300 West. This is for a grade separation there on between 100 South and South Temple. The scope of this project is for a grade separation project to construct improvements on SR 89 in Salt Lake City. This scope is to create a grade separated crossing at 300 West between 100 South and South Temple, enhancing connectivity and safety between the east and west developments while maintaining traffic operations. This was a project that was programmed in the 2025 general legislative session. It was Senate Bill 195. The new funding is for $300 million for a total estimated project cost of $300 million. The last project that we have before us on this board modification is a project up in Weber County. This is on 12th Street. This is for a grade separation, railroad grade, railroad grade separated project. Got it. Okay. The scope of the effort is to complete the environmental study and a portion of design for future grade separation on 12th Street. This crossing has daily congestion and backing up of traffic due to the proximity of the switching yards and rail car drop-offs. Grade separated crossing would improve safety for both pedestrians and the vehicles, as well as reduce congestion on this busy highway. So you can see here on 12th Street, and then we'll get a street view looking either direction. So the request is for this, a new project, to add this environmental study funding. It comes from a CRISI grant. Now that's Consolidated Rail Infrastructure and Safety Improvement Program. And then it has matching funds from Region 1. So there's 1.7+ million from the CRISI funds, 445,000 from Region 1 Transportation Solution Program, for a total project cost of 2.2+ million for this environmental document. Mr. Chair, that's all of our board modifications.
Thank you, Ben. Did you by chance go down and tally that whole series of requests right there? The numbers are staggering. Just mind-boggling when we start looking at nearly 3 billion for I-15. And just from Salt Lake to Farmington.
My comment was, I'm glad I'm sitting next to Robert because I now know who has all the money.
Amen. Thank you,
Is
Robert,
our
for
new
letting
best
us spend
friend.
it. Any other questions for Ben? Okay, if not, then I would entertain a motion to approve the resolution to modify the 2025-2030 Transportation Improvement Program without that piece that Mayor Burton wanted. No, so.
Make that motion,
Including
Mr.
that
Chair.
piece. All right.
Okay, include that piece then. Go ahead.
Commissioner Harvey, was that a motion?
Approve.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Second.
All right, we have a second. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, thank you.
How can I woo-hoo?
Now you can woohoo. Okay.
Let the record note, Mayor Burton has officially woo-hooed.
Oh,
I
item 4.
apologize, I missed the last meeting for the station area plans, but I understand, Andrew, you filled in for me with the woo-hoo. Is that true?
I think there was, yes, a substitute woo-hoo made, motioned and then second unanimously for your woo-hoo, yes.
Wonderful. Thank you for filling in for me.
Oh, where have we gone? Item 4C, to circle us back to Ben.
Who's running this meeting?
Oh, man. Each year, WFRC staff works with UDOT, UTA, and the local governments to compile a new transportation improvement program. It's valuable for the public to have opportunity to comment on the new draft tip. And we've asked Ben to briefly review the proposed approach for reviewing or receiving public comment. And so, Ben, back to you.
Wonderful. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Key words in that introduction, but here we'll go. So this is an exciting opportunity as we get to prepare to go out for public review and comment. The public makes a significant difference on our projects. We generally get a much better product, and oftentimes it saves resources and funding, and it enables us all to work together. So as we prepare for going to public comment, Your meeting materials will have a lot of this information that will be available to the public. We have a table. In that table, it has all of the programs that the Wasatch Front is responsible for programming, those projects. So that's first section of that. We also have the list of all of the funded projects with other federal and state funds. They also will have access to the list of transit projects that are funded. The UTO oversees or takes the lead in the programming of these funds. And then we also have the air conformity memorandum that shows that these projects do indeed meet the demands that are set before us with the air quality. So this information's made available for the public. In addition to that, well, let me maybe walk through a timeline to where we are there first. So today is the 19th of June. And we will ask at the conclusion of this that we go out for public review and comment beginning on the 28th. That public review and comment period will conclude on the 2nd of August. During that time, we will have 2 public open houses, one on the 8th of July, and that'll be in the South Jordan area around the ballpark area, and one on the 22nd of July, which will be up near the Lindquist ballpark up in Ogden area. Hoping that we'll be able to get a mix of good traffic as people are coming to and from the game to be able to participate and give comments on what's happening and where things are going with transportation along the area. Andrew?
Ben, I'll just note, as you noted, we're doing a different approach for our public engagement locations this year, going to the ballparks. And I want to express appreciation for South Jordan Mayor Ramsey and Ogden City Mayor Nadolski, who helped facilitate us working with the ballparks to have that happen. So it'll be fun. I think Ben just wants to go to baseball games, really.
We'll be standing outside, I'm afraid.
Thank you. We'll get you a hot dog.
Thanks. But you're all welcome to pass by us as you go into the ball game. That's where we'll encourage. But thank you, Andrew. Indeed, we thank the mayors for their help there. So after our public open houses and we gather all the information we can, and we'll have not only those opportunities, but we'll have an online interactive map. But we bring all of this information back to our technical advisory committees, which are made up of the city engineers and public works personnel and other city employees. We talk about that information in preparation for us bringing that information back to you on the 21st. Then after you have opportunity to review the information before you, we'll provide a summary of the comments. Then we will ask for your recommendation to the regional council to approve the 2026-2031 transportation improvement program. They will do that there on the 28th of August. After that's completed, then we will compile all of our information and give that to UDOT, where they will compile all of the tips. There's 4 tips in the state. There's Cash, us, MAG, and Dixie, with the statewide transportation improvement program, and that information is then submitted to Federal Highways and the Federal Transit Agency administration, and they get an opportunity then, well, they have the responsibility to review all that information, then approve it, and then come October 1, we have a brand new transportation improvement program that will be moving forward, the 2026-2031 TIP. When we meet in August with regional council, we'll also receive direction to submit or send out letters of intent. We'll begin the process for the 2027-2032 TIP. So those processes continually overlap and we move forward. So you go online, www.wfrc.org. Whew, we're still good today. And you go right to the transportation improvement program. Now, this is under construction, and we've got things going, and they're just going to get fancier and look better. But you go to the transportation improvement program page, and there you can link right into the interactive map, and you can actually look at all the projects, not just the funded projects from WFRC, but all of the projects. You can zero right in, you can pull it up, and you can make comments. We'd encourage you to make comments. You can look at information on that, and if you have additional questions in that, then please reach out to the department, to UTA to us, and we can get whatever information that you're seeking after. But in that document, we'll have the STP programs. These are the projects that you reviewed and approved, right? You'll remember those projects there. Just a couple of refreshers. There's a project there in Hooper. We got a project there in Holiday City. This also includes those projects that were approved by this body. I thought I turned it off, but I turned it on. Sorry.
They'd like you to bring home some eggs when you're
Yeah.
on your way.
Yeah, I'm sorry. So the air quality projects there, and a couple there that you might recall, there is the intersection there in North Ogden on Fruitland Drive, and or the intersection on near Highland High there in Salt Lake City. These projects also include the TAP program, and the projects that were identified now, we can cross. And remember, you programmed these funds, TAP funds and CMAQ funds, to accomplish the requests there on the South Jordan, or the request to maintain our green bike or bike share program that has been very successful across the valley. And then we have our CRP, or the carbon reduction program there, and those projects there like the Van Pool with UTA, and like the sidewalk and bike lanes, safe routes to school, and that up in Far West. But so not only our projects, but then we've got the other projects. We got the UDOT projects, these capacity projects that are happening all around. We've talked about the TIF, the TTIF, and other projects. These lists exist on UDOT's website. They're all included in the TIP. Then we've got projects that show we're talking about our rehab and our maintenance. These are ongoing all around us in our cities, on the state roads, on the city roads. We've got safety and ITS, intelligent transportation systems. And then we've got the transit operations and the maintenance projects. And then we got the pedestrian and the bicycle facilities. Now, that's all really cool, right? So I have an idea. Rather than sit home and watch some boring movie like Princess Bride or something like that, when you're sitting there together with your loved ones, pull out your phone, type in wfrc.org, cast it to your television, and review the tip together. What a moment. I was going to have fireworks go off here, but we know the projects are pretty spectacular. So review the tip, take opportunity there, and really enjoy that night together with a big bowl of popcorn, maybe a little ice cream, and you will remember this tip year. Mr. Chair, that's all we have for this.
Hello, my name is Inigo Montoya. You kill my father, prepare to die. You just killed
It's
the
a
Princess
close
Bride,
second.
man. What? It's just,
It's a real close second.
I don't know. I just struggle with this because, we had the 2020, 2025 that was just cool. And we're just wrapping up the 2025, 2030. This just seems a little, 26, 31. Yeah,
Oh.
I think when we get to the one that ends in 33, because we'll know everything on there's going to be done before the Olympics. That'll be, it'll be an off year, but it'll at least be cool.
That will be. And all these will prep us right up
That's
to that. We're getting there.
Thank you, Ben. Any comments, concerns for Ben?
I just have a comment. I think my husband's going to appreciate this date night coming up. This is really good stuff.
Awesome.
Thank you. Yeah.
We expect a picture of him sleeping on the couch while you're eating popcorn and ice cream. Carl.
No, I had just suggested an hour ago to my wife, let's watch a movie tonight. She's gonna really look forward to this. The one question I had on the open house is, not that the in-person or the baseball infringement exercise is a bad thing, but can you do it online? And is that meet your statutory or your sort of requirements. And the only reason I ask, when we do public involvement online, it just is a much higher participation than, say, in-person kind of thing, just because I think people can do it literally from the convenience of their home. That was just a question.
Is the suggestion or recommendation to have an online public
Yeah,
open
it's kind of
house?
like a Zoom session, and they can, you have a little explanation thing, and then people can ask questions. And we just have found in we used to do these open houses, and they would be pretty sparsely attended, to be honest. And these sort of Zoom or online things have gotten a lot more participation, and, and they've been able to document comments and those kind of things. And I just wondered whether that's allowable under the program, or do you do anything like that?
It is. So in the past, and actually during COVID, that's, we were just hitting this period just as everyone was told to stay home. And so it was a real new opportunity for us there. And we did that. And years ago, our public open houses would be in the basement of the library, which, you're right, we had spiders and mites, nobody else. But that's why we tried to identify locations where we get a lot of passing by. In the past, we've been at the intermodal centers, and we try to catch people as they go from the bus to the train, and sometimes that's hard. So we have pass along cards with QR codes, and we quickly tell them our blip, hand them one of those, and hope they do it before they throw it away. But that's a great suggestion. I think maybe we can talk about that and implement that as well and report back.
Ben, let me just supplement that to just clarify. There is an online interactive map version of all of the draft tip. So we absolutely make the information available to the public broadly, and we do the in-person public open houses. And what I hear Trustee Christensen saying is great, and consider adding another, because I don't think we would, you're not suggesting replacing.
Well, it could be in lieu of.
Okay,
I mean,
not this year.
No.
at
I'm
this-
just saying, as you think about it.
Yeah, but I think that's a great idea. Ben Johnnet, our
You're not
communications
as
manager, thank you for
geographically
thank you. Let's definitely take a look at that.
Thank you.
Good idea.
Thanks.
Okay, any other comments? Okay,
I have one comment. I was waiting until the end. My comment is not about any of the particular projects, but just to acknowledge the magnitude of the effort here. We noted the significant investment in dollars that's going into our transportation system. There are hundreds, thousands of projects. As we've been going through this, has been noted, all modes, state road, local road, transit, active transportation, and then also hundreds or thousands of people that are involved in doing all of this work. And the collaboration that we have, that we get to enjoy at WFRC, working with your communities, the cities and the counties and your staffs, UDOT and UTA, so many stakeholders, the business community, community representatives, and the public. We're really proud of the collaboration and really appreciative of the hard work that everybody puts in. So I just wanted to acknowledge all of that that's going into this. Ben does a great job, and he'd be the first to say it's not just him. There's so many people that are involved in this. So thank you very much. This is the kind of thing, collaboration and investment and smart planning, that can help Utah continue to have great quality of life even as we continue to grow. So thank you to everybody.
thank you, Andrew. Okay, well, then I would entertain a motion to approve releasing the draft 2026-2031 tip and the air quality conformity analysis for public review and comment.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, that is unanimous. Well, we're all aware of how critically important safety is on our roadways, and so we've invited Kip Billings to talk to us about safety trends and improvement projects that have occurred in the region. Kip, it's all yours.
Thank you, Mayor. Yeah, after that tip high, I'm hoping to bring the room down to maybe a more sober level so everyone can return home safely. Before I begin, I was contacted this past week by someone who wanted to meet this group, and they probably had a little trouble finding our office way at the end of the hallway. So Brad, do you want to introduce yourself and what your group is? And
Turn it on? Okay. Sorry, I'm a little high from that last presentation. I'm Brad. I'm Brad DiOrio. I'm the new executive director at Leaders for Clean Air. Leaders for Clean Air is an educational advisement, and we also help Rocky Mountain Power with the applications for EV charger purchases and also for the infrastructure to put EV chargers into parking lots. We've been asked to also kind of help out with new companies that are considering turning some of their cars into fleet vehicles, because there is some money out there for that also. And so I'm just here to hear more about what you guys are doing and learn more about what's happening in the state of Utah for transportation. And it sounds really great so far. And I like the levity that's going on here, because most of these meetings are really boring.
Well, thank you, Brad.
well, I'm bringing to you today the first of what I hope is an annual report on our roadway safety. If you recall, I guess I'd go the right way. About a year ago, this body adopted a goal to reduce fatalities and serious injuries by 2.5% each year. So I wanted to report on what those trends look like and what we're doing to achieve that goal. In short, we did not meet our goal of a 2.5% reduction. That blue line are the fatalities and serious injuries for each year through 2024. The dotted orange line is that 2.5% reduction. We look at the rolling 3-year average. And so we are not meeting that goal. I'll talk a little bit later in a little more detail more about our performance there. But how do we go about reducing fatalities and serious injuries? The Federal Highways has adopted what they call the safe system approach. There's 5 facets to this. Emergency response, safer road users, safer vehicles, speed management, and lastly, safer roads. And it's the safer roads area where Wasatch Front as a planning agency can probably have the most influence in improving safety. We can advocate for some of those others, but we have a direct involvement in planning and implementing safer roads. So that's kind of the focus in our, last year we completed our comprehensive safety action plan, and that's a resource that's available to us. So I'll mention that at the end as well. So this involves kind of a change in our culture, our established culture towards roadway safety, that we recognize that humans make mistakes and that we can design roads to lessen the impact forces that are involved if a crash does occur. For example, a roundabout is a very effective way to reduce the conflict angles and the speeds involved if there is a crash at an intersection. Likewise, a sidewalk or a shared use path is effective in separating pedestrians and cyclists from vehicle traffic. So those are just a couple of examples of how we can lessen those impact forces and improve safety. Looking in a little more detail in what's going on with the crashes, it's kind of hard to report good news when there are still a lot of fatalities and serious injuries. But there have been reductions in the fatalities in 2024. That's the what's the number on there? 123 is actually the lowest number of fatalities in the Wasatch Front region since 2019. You might see different numbers that for statewide. The data I'm presenting to you is just for the Wasatch Front region. Unfortunately, the serious injuries continue to trend upward, and so that's a concern. When we look at the risk factors involved in crashes, the tallest bar on there, as you might expect, is intersections. Identifying risk factors is a little problematic. For example, if you had a teenager on a motorcycle late at night with rain, and maybe some drinking was involved and they crash at an intersection, what is the risk factor involved there? So, but going through the data, what we're finding is intersections definitely stand out. And that's probably where we can invest a lot of our efforts. Roadway departure, that includes crossing the center line as well as going off the shoulder. And now you're interacting with opposing vehicle traffic or fixed objects. So those events tend to be more severe. And then the third bar there is speed involved. Whenever you introduce more speed into a crash, the outcomes are exponential. So the last three bars, motorcycles, pedestrians, and bicycles, I kind of group together as vulnerable road users. And obviously with the disparity in speed and mass involved, they're not the most frequent type of crash, but when those users are involved, the outcomes are very severe for those reasons. The other three gray bars are behavioral things that do show up a lot. Seat belts and DUI in teenagers. Those aren't something we deal with directly as a planning agency, but it's good to be aware of those as well. In addition to our crash reporting, we want to emphasize safety in all of our project planning. And part of that is to keep a tally of safety strategies that have been implemented. So we started this spring a survey of our member communities to identify safety elements that have been added to the roadway system. And you can see there a lot of almost 13 miles of sidewalk have been added, 6 miles of bike lanes and so forth, totaling about 23 miles of safety type improvements that are measured in miles. The spot improvements, we're seeing a lot of lighting that's been added, crosswalks and enhancing crosswalks so they're more visible. And that looks like 467. This list is very preliminary. We think the actual number of improvements is much larger. Of the 60 communities in the region, we've only gotten responses from about 9. So we're going to continue that effort through the winter to get to, and then each year hereafter to augment this report. The city's reporting.
Can I ask a quick?
Yeah, go ahead, Beth.
Yes.
Thank you. On your previous slide, I am just curious if there is an analysis on which ones have the highest value per investment. So for instance, just using the sidewalk, is that the best place to put your funding, or are there other ones, any one of these that really have the best bang for the buck, so to speak? And I was just curious if that was part of the analysis.
That's a good question. I couldn't tell you off the top of my head what those are. Within our safety action plan, there is an appendix we call our toolkit, and it has a cost effectiveness rating for the different strategies. And so that resource is available. Yeah, that I could refer to that and get you a better answer. Sorry, I don't have that off.
Richard,
top
the
of my
answer
head.
is yes. You just don't know the details right now. So we are evaluating when we do this work collectively, the cost effectiveness for safety of different types of investments. It's a good question, and
Yeah.
that is part of the analysis.
Right. The different investments do give us different results.
I would,
Exactly.
excuse me, Mr. Chair. So Salt Lake City is doing a lot on the safety at intersections across the board. And there's also the program called Vision Zero, which is also tries the goal of being zero fatalities. And some of the information is still coming out there on, the raised crosswalk versus just the crosswalk itself, flat crosswalk, and the color of that crosswalk, the leading pedestrian crossing where the light turns green for the pedestrian to walk, I think it's 7 seconds ahead of the light turning green. So the pedestrian has time to get more into the intersection by coming into the intersection at the same time. There's still not a lot of data on, does that support fewer incidents or, even, we have some high numbers here of pedestrian intersections and problems, but it's also those near misses, right? Those are never counted. So there's that, there's the no right on red type of signs. And you'll see that also where we have that. Again, there's not a lot of data that says how much that helps and is the cost, what's the benefit of the cost? And does the upgrade of the actual intersection lights where all the lights turn red so that and pedestrians can walk at that time and there's no turns at that point. So all these are ideas, but they all don't have a good number on how much they support or, the costs associated with it. Some of it's upgrading, but they're all out there. We're looking at it, and it is a question because lights, you want to upgrade the lights, but you can't always upgrade light because maybe the software's not there to upgrade light. Or you even see the sign that says, big red light that says no turn on red, and no one sees that because it's up there and they're always obvious. They're just automatically, they can turn right on red. So all those are issues that we're challenged with.
I really like the more in-depth piece to that. That does make a lot of sense. And I think as we continue to do this, this is something that to really kind of understand in greater depth. I think the width of the street, all of these other components that go into that, at some point there should be this is the scenario that would best fit for this existing location based on all of these factors. So thanks.
Sorry, just stealing some. The other side of the house is just red light cameras. So there's another bill going on, coming up here with Representative Jake Fitz from West Jordan, Representative West Valley on red light cameras, on doing some intersections there because we have a lot of fatalities, people running red lights. So and I bring that up to the Wasatch Front group here is because this is not just a city by city thing. It's almost a state across the board. The red lights on reds, the intersection cameras, how do you make all these intersections safe? Because if the 80% rule, if you reduced all that intersection problems and fatalities or serious injuries, the pedestrians, the speedings, all those would probably drop down too. So overall, the safety would be a big deal. But we can't do it as a city, and we may not be able to even do it as a council, but we need to look at it and push for it as a state, because these are not cheap endeavors. And as you all know, there's a lot of people with a lot of pushback on, I need to get to work faster, so we shouldn't have any lights and I should have green the whole time. So thank you. Thanks for my soapbox.
So for that incomplete survey we had on there, these are the cities that have responded. So if your city is on there, kudos to you and your staff. If your city's not on there, we will be reaching out again in the winter. We realize this is a busy time for your people for implementing some of your projects. Our comprehensive safety action plan can be found on our website under programs. The link is on there, and we're hoping that becomes a go-to resource for all of your project planning. we would like to see safety become, I remember 15, 20 years ago, we would go out and evaluate projects. And the popular question was, does this project include bike lanes? Yes, we have bike lanes. And everybody was saying, yes, we have bike lanes in our project. And now we see lots of bike lanes out there and the network coming together. We'd like to see the same kind of response towards safety improvements. Does your project, what new and innovative safety and effective safety elements are included in your project? And we think that's how we'll get to that reduction of 2.5% each year. And that is my presentation.
Well, thank you, Kip. Any questions for Kip? Okay. Oh, yes, Wayne.
You may recall that we also have a grant on hold, a federal grant to do roadway safety audits in the region, perhaps 5 to 10 or so corridors with cities that want to go more in depth. And so we're hoping that pause anyway, we're waiting on a grant agreement with the Federal Highway Administration to go through, so we can proceed with that. And I'll also note, some of you are probably aware, there's an application deadline of June 26th with the Safe Streets and Roads for All federal program for planning and demonstration grants. And it's also for implementation grants. Implementation grants had to have a pre-application submitted about a month ago. So if you're not already on that ship for this year, it has sailed. But anyway, just a couple additional notes there.
Well, thank you very
Could
much,
I
Kip.
ask, could I ask
Oh,
a
yeah,
question
go ahead.
real quickly? So I understand the purpose of the report and what we're doing and that behavioral influence is probably outside of purview because it's hard for us to change behavior. But my question is, because driving under the influence is such a cause of, can be such a high percentage of why people are seriously injured on our roads. Is the philosophy of this report to change design of roads to lessen the potential for fatalities, knowing that people are going to drive under the influence anyway? Or is there a point where anecdotally in Cottonwood Heights, in 3.5 years of being the mayor, we have 7 accidents that have been caused death or serious injury. 5 of the 7 were impairment driven. And so to me, I'm just wondering if we've just said, hey, people are going to do it because how do you change behavior? And we're just going to try to design roadways to lessen impact. Or anyway, I thought I would at least ask that question.
Yeah, I don't think the intent is that we can make our roads safe for people so they can drive impaired. Obviously, that's not the point. But you know, I'm thinking of the common mistakes, the distractions. You come to an intersection, and we've got such a variety of intersections and interchanges. I approach sometimes, and I'm a little uncertain where I'm supposed to go. Point is that can lead to those kinds of mistakes. And, you know, we can do some things to mitigate the consequences of some of those. But no, we're not trying to make the roads safe so you can drive impaired with impunity.
Yeah, and yeah, the point was that are we just saying we can't change behavior, so we're going to do as much as we can to lessen if people are going to drive impaired, they are. I mean, that's obviously, we saw that the number of impaired drivers, and it was a big percentage of obviously the total fatalities. So anyway, I know it's perhaps outside of our purview, but I just thought I'd ask the question philosophically.
Mayor, can I just add a supplement? It's such a great point, and I think the way that we think about this is we have to do all of the above. because as Kip noted, there are a variety of reasons and sometimes they, relate to each other. We, as a transportation planning agency, and have less impact on, public education or people's behavioral choices. We can work with the communities and help on design that can improve the safety. But it is not choosing one or the other. It's all of us being involved in every strategy that we can to be as safe as possible. And then at the point that Kip is noting, even if somebody does drive in an impaired or including distracted way, the design has the potential to mitigate the loss, the severity of injury, even if they're doing that. It's not to say we're enabling them to do it. We don't want them to do it, but the design can have an impact on whether the crash happens or not, or the severity of it, regardless of why. It's a great point, and hopefully we'll all be thinking about all of these aspects as we go forward.
Yeah. Thanks, Andrew. Well, thank you, Kip. Appreciate that. Now that we've taken the room down from our high to this level, we'd like to go back to the high and turn some time over to UTA and Carlton Christensen, the chair of the UTA Board of Trustees, for some introductory remarks, and Ryan Taylor.
Sure. First of all, I went earlier this year when Wayne was asking for some suggestions. Thanks for responding to this. For years, my city council district, when I served in Salt Lake City, included a large area of industrial land, and forever employers were, saying, how could we get some transit service here? We're trying to get employees, and to be honest, it didn't really model well, and because it's a periodic, shift-based kind of demand, and it just doesn't lend itself sometimes as well to full service. And then you have people coming from such wide range of locations that, it becomes more than maybe a one transfer type of movement. So then you're talking more hours to get there, and it's not as practical. And one of the best kept secrets that I knew about but didn't really fully appreciate till I got to UTA is our van pool program. And I think as we go through this and you get a sense of where that comes from, as long as the business is in our area, we do provide, and you'll see from one of the slides how far they actually do come outside of our district to get our service district to get in there. And it really provides some flexibility in ways that is probably a lot more efficient than actually trying to implement some kind of a fixed route transit solution. And so as we look at our communities, as we look at employer demands in our areas, I hope you'll keep in mind our van pool program. And so with that, turn it over here to Randy.
Thank you, Carlton. Again, my name is Ryan Taylor. I'm the General Manager over Special Services at UTA. And the fleets that I get to oversee are not like our big brother siblings of Front Runner and Trax that get a lot of publicity and talk about. I get to oversee the smaller fleets. They may be smaller in size, we like our van pool vans or our paratransit vans, but I like to personally think that these fleets have the largest personal impact on the people that ride them. And so before we jump into the slide deck, I'd like to give you an idea about some of the riders that use our van pool. So imagine you work at Hill Air Force Base and you're one of the 90 or so vans that go into there every single day to get to work. But you live in Malad, Idaho with 5 other people that work at the base. Your commute is from Malad to Ogden every single day. And you get on one of our vans just like this to get into work. You may work down in Lehigh in the tech sector, and you ride Front Runner from Salt Lake to Lehigh. But there's not a great bus that's going to get you to your office park that's just out of reach from a bus. But there's a van that your employer pays for that meets you at the Front Runner station and picks you and your colleagues up and takes you the last mile, last 3 miles, last 5 miles to your office space. You may work out at the Dugway Proving Grounds, but you live in Tooele, and you have to drive that lonely road every day to get out to your workplace. Or even a lonelier road is out in Skull Valley, where you're driving along that road every day, and you're not dodging cars, you're dodging cows with your 5 other folks or 10 other folks in a van just like this. Those are some of our riders that ride in our van pools through our rideshare program every day. And hopefully, if I do my job well today, I can illuminate some of the impacts and the positive impacts that this has on our community. If I can work this correctly, then I may get to the next slide. There we go. So van pool started about 30 years ago at UTA called Utah Lift with about 25 vans. Today, we operate almost 450, 30 years later. And the average commute is about 25 miles, a 50-mile round trip for the folks that are using them. So, what is van pool? Van pool is like a carpool where you live in a similar place, you work in a similar place, and you commute together. And as I mentioned before, it also has a variation where you may take transit, you may take front runner in, but you can't get that last portion into your office space. And so you get on a van to get your folks there to work each day. What are some of the benefits? Well, one of the largest benefits that van pool has in our community is that it's taking single occupancy vehicles off the road. We're averaging between 5 or 6 people in a van pool, so that's 5 or 6 cars that are taking off the freeways every single day. What does that do for the employer? That frees up parking spaces. Here it's a little tough to park sometimes. And if you have 5 extra spaces, 10 extra spaces, 100 extra spaces at your facility, that's a good thing for your employees. It also saves them money. But what's included in van pool? Well, we are a turnkey program. That means everything is included in your van pool. That means your fuel, your insurance, your maintenance, and even a guaranteed ride home. So if you have a child that gets sick and you need to leave work early, or you have a project you need to work on, you need to stay late, we can still get you home. You're not going to be stranded because your van pool went home without you. And that is also included in the program. We have really 2 fleets of vehicles in our vans. You've probably seen these around. They have white vans, a little UTA on them, 9 to 15 passenger capacity. Our most in-demand fleet are our minivans. Since we put those into service probably a decade ago, by far most people love the comfort of the minivan. We also have, for people who have accessibility issues, we have a couple of vans, so if somebody has a wheelchair user in their group, we can still accommodate them as well. And where do we go? Man, I keep hitting these buttons too fast. This map here, the pink is the origins of van pool so far in 2025, and the blue is the destinations. And you can kind of see as they are larger, more people go into those areas. They are all across the Wasatch Front. We have quite a few that are outside of the Wasatch Front. One thing that we are the only provider of van pools in the entire state. And there's communities outside of our region here that want to have that. So how do we do that? Well, we take vehicles that have been very well taken care of in our fleet. They're fully depreciated, so our interest in them is really not there any longer. And once they've reached that lifespan, we let other people outside of our area get into the van pool program so that they can also have these vans for their services, right? So we're trying to meet the needs, but still be cognizant of our responsibilities for the people in our region.
Ryan, just back to that. So it's actually the van pools are operating outside the UTA district boundaries.
We do have a few that do, that's correct.
Is it still a UTA provided service then?
So it is overseen by our staff.
It is.
It is. It's overseen by our staff. We do have some financial things in there where they're paying for their own insurance.
Yeah.
And they pay a rate that compensates for all of that.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I'm sorry if I missed this, but are the drivers of the vans UTA employees?
No, that's a really good question. So none of the drivers of Vanpool are employees of UTA. They self-select their own drivers. So you can create a Vanpool if you have 4 or 5 people, 6 people in your neighborhood, you work in the same area, you could create your own Vanpool group. You could call UTA, we could get you a van, you'd select your own driver and alternate driver. And so they self-operate every one of these vans throughout. Now, we do have also another program where employer can sponsor the Vanpool. A good example is the Canyon Transportation. So all of the ski resorts participate in Vanpool because they need to get, say you're a lift operator and you need to get up early in the morning before everybody else. In order to get their employees up to the canyons, they get into the Vanpool program to get those folks up to the canyons very early to get their jobs done. And they're sponsored by the employer. So it can be either way. Yep. Very flexible that way. Now, we're fortunate. Since 2021, we have seen growth in Vanpool that we have not seen in probably a decade and a half. I know this is really hard for you guys to see because it's small, but essentially in 2001, this is Vanpool groups, individual groups of Vanpool users. We were tracking in the low 300s for total Vanpool groups. And right now in 2025, so in April, we were up to 477. So we've seen a tremendous amount of growth in Vanpool groups as well as total boardings on our Vanpool. So we are well over 100,000 boardings per month in all of our Vanpools. And so there is a really, really wide reach. Just to give you the scale of that, for Canyon Transportation that UTA does, for all of the ski bus, ski-related transportation, about 25% of those boardings were on Vanpool vans that were done by the ski resorts. So that's taking employees, so they're not using the core routes, the core bus routes. We can free that up for the general population and get the employees up there when they need to. In Tooele County, we transport more people on Vanpool every single day than all of the other UTA modes combined. And it's just because of the nature of that area, a fixed route bus, as Carlton said, doesn't work, but Vanpool can work beautifully. Now, the last slide here is what is the total impact? What is this doing for you and for me and our community? Oh, can you go back one slide? Oh, sorry. Maybe it's automatically going. It must be. That right there is how many miles we reduced by having people on vans rather than commuting in their individual cars. So in 2022, there's 23 million passenger miles that were not taken because they were on vans. That increased to 31.5 million miles last year. That means that's emissions that aren't going into our atmosphere. That's fuel that's not being consumed. That's not wear and tear on our highways. And it happens to be 65 round trips to the moon. Or over 1,200 trips around the earth.
Is that a van in space?
That is a van in space. We're hoping to get there someday.
That's awesome. Ooh, hey, there
So,
it goes.
that's the impact, right? That's the true impact of Vanpool on our community. And we're just grateful to be a part of that.
Can I ask a couple of questions?
Yeah, absolutely.
Over here.
We might get stuck on the van going to the moon, but there's the question slide.
This is great. So if, I'm assuming the Vanpool, when it leaves, everyone doesn't meet at the same place, it drives around to the different residents to pick them up, or do they all combine in one spot to go?
Both. The
Either way.
Vanpool users define their own rules. And so if they want to have individual pickups, so many of our Vanpool drivers will keep that van at their home. It will store overnight at their home, and they'll have a route where they'll pick up Jane, Sally, Mike, and Jim, and then they'll be on their way. And, or they can park that, say, at a UTA park and ride lot, and they'll all meet there and then get on the van and go to work. So it depends on the van users.
So I'd say on the flip of that, then they wouldn't all have to work at the same location. They could actually stop at 2 or 3 locations to drop people off.
Yeah, they would make up their own rules. So they could potentially have multiple drop-offs. Typically it's one, but it could be multiple if they chose to do so.
My other question is, so what is UTA providing? They provide a van?
Good question. So
What else?
we provide the vans and we provide the administration of the program. So it takes 10 staff members and the program manager to manage the maintenance and the upkeep of all the vehicles, as well as making sure all the insurance accidents happen, right? So they're managing that. They're managing the income, the revenue that comes in from all of that, the billing and invoicing, and also each individual van pool group.
And how does UTA charge for that?
So we do have a per mileage rate. So we have a rate table that basically lays out the distance that you go, and then there's a per passenger amount associated with that.
So you charge the individual passengers, not the group, and they don't charge among themselves. You charge each individual rider?
Correct.
Right.
Correct.
Thank you.
And then that can be, again, that can be sponsored. So if an employer wants to sponsor that entire van, they can do so. If they want to sponsor part of that fare for that van, they can do that as well. Or they can leave it entirely up to the riders to do that.
Dan?
And the gas, do they pay?
Gas is included.
Gas
So
is
each
included.
So
van-
good.
Yeah, each van
Just
gets a
got
fuel
it.
card. I'm sorry.
You're okay.
Each van has a fuel card. And so we monitor that, the gas usage with the mileage put on the van. Yep, good question. Anything else? Thank
I
you
have a question.
Yes, Commissioner.
With the driver, who pays for the driver? Is that included with the rate you're charging the passenger?
So the driver does get, and Michael, you can correct me, they do get 50 miles a month that they can use the van for personal use. So there's not a lot of perks for being a driver. Oftentimes people like to be in control of the van and they like to be driving rather than riding. But that's the main perk, isn't it, Michael? Yeah, it's pretty restricted.
So I see. So say there's 6 people in a carpool. One of those 6 could be the driver and be in charge of the van.
Absolutely. Yep. You
Oh,
can have
okay.
one driver and an alternate driver just in case that person gets sick.
And they're only paying the per mile, the rate table.
Correct.
Huh. Okay, thanks. Fabulous.
Any other questions?
Ryan, what are you seeing as average? Is there an average charge that the passengers are paying? Is there a?
The
I mean,
mileage.
I'm sure it's all over the board.
Yeah, I mean, imagine anywhere from, the example is 25 miles on a single trip, 50 miles round trip. We have really short trips if you're just doing, say, a transit pass and going to your workplace for a first last mile versus you're coming from Malad to Hill Air Force Base. So that variety of that is really, it's a big span. But we do have rate tables. If you're interested in that, we can point you towards it.
Thank you.
What do you attribute the growth to? I mean, is it a marketing thing? Is it a change in conditions? Why is it growing?
I think there's probably a couple of answers to that. Marketing, no, we haven't had a lot of resources to put into marketing that, quite frankly. And so a lot of that demand is because employers need to get their employees there when they need to get them there. And so there's this demand for where mass transit, where we don't have a good bus route, where we don't have a good rail system, this really fills in those gaps to those employers. Oftentimes you'll see employers build a facility because the land is cheaper, but it happens to be away from transit. That's not optimal for public transit, but it's often economics. And so they've got to get their employers there. And so that's a driver for that. The second one that we've seen is in canyon transportation. So over the past few years, there's just been a huge uptick in demand for that over the winter months. So when we get to the month of December and January, we are completely tapped out of vehicles because every resource that we possibly have is being utilized in those months because the demand is so high.
Ryan, thank you very much. Carlton?
For the record, I do know Ryan's name, and now I owe him a gift certificate to Home Depot where we usually meet on Saturday. So my apologies, Ryan.
All right, thank you.
Thanks, everybody.
Appreciate the presentation. That was fascinating. Well, that just brings us to other business. Is there anything else? Trustee Holbrook?
Thank you very much. I your conversations at the beginning of this meeting, talking about the strategy of housing and land use and how that's all correlating and what we're trying to accomplish on a national level. I just wanted to talk about the fact that there is a housing summit that ULI, or Urban Land Institute Utah, is actually putting on. It's on August 12th. It's from 7:30 to noon, and it's at Little America. And I'm happy to give out details, but I think one of the key components is that ULI, and I am speaking as the chair of ULI just right this second, ULI has really tried to reach out to elected officials more to understand their land use needs and to kind of couple that with the private sector so that there can be more deliberate discussions about how to navigate housing. And one of the things that's on our topics this year is the funding strategies and how we can kind of incorporate that if you're looking at large scale developments, whether it's for sale or rentals. So anyway, I just wanted to announce that. Feel free to reach out if you have any further questions. It's certainly on a lot of different websites, but I just wanted to mention that because I do think that there's that connectivity piece. So thank you.
Very good. Thank you. Well, our next meeting is Thursday, August 21st. Same time, same place. If there's no other discussion, entertain a motion to adjourn.
Move to adjourn.
Got a whole bunch of them. Thank you, everybody.